The people would like to know what you, congressmen, and your fellow congressmen are going to do to rein in the megalomaniac in the White House.
Hello good people, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Awaken Africa and I'm your host Bemo. So as you've seen from the coming up introduction, you've seen that that was a town hall meeting back in Idaho where it turned out to be chaotic. A woman was being dragged out after shouting at one of the speakers and asking very serious questions to that particular congressman. So guys, apart from the protests, anti-Trump protests, Americans are not happy with the way Trump is trying to run his government. Sanders call it an oligarchy government. An oligarchy government, a government of the billionaires, by the billionaires, for the billionaires. So it means it's not a democratic government. They're trying to bring some sort of kingship in the United States. So actually Americans are not happy at all. Americans are trying to retaliate back. They're saying, no, we won't allow this kind of governance to happen in our country. This country is known to be having one of the oldest and most mature democracies in the world. You can't just destroy our government. And by the way, today's video, I like to the video that I'm about to show you, I like to give credits to Lija Miller. This is a very it was a very good video. So I decided that let me just talk about this video. So guys, I'd like us to jump into that video, but before that, kindly, if you're new to this channel, I'll ask you most definitely to subscribe. Take me to 1,000 subscribers, kindly guys. I know you're going to do that. Number 2, don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to share to your brothers and sisters, and then turn on post notifications so that every time I post a new video, you'll be the first person to get notified about it. And right about now, I'd like us to jump straight into that video.
Last week, at town hall meetings across the country, constituents clashed with lawmakers, Republican and Democrat alike, over anger about cuts to social services, DOJ's chainsaw strategy ripping apart the government, and general chaos that has become our everyday reality since Trump took office a little over a month ago. It seems people from rural Texas to suburban Connecticut to central Oregon and everywhere in between are paying attention, and they don't like what they see. Could this be the rumblings of actual resistance? Let's get into it. One of the more high-profile town hall events happened over the weekend. This report from AP caught my attention with the headline, Idaho Town Hall Meeting Turns Chaotic After Woman is Forcibly Removed for Shouting at Speakers. After a month of what's felt like complete chaos for most people, including some Trump supporters, it seems the honeymoon is over. According to reporting from the New York Times and others, and I'll link all my sources in the description, town hall meetings across the country are being held as Congress takes its first recess since the beginning of the new administration. These town halls are meant as routine opportunities for elected officials to meet directly with constituents to hear feedback, and they're events that are often punctuated by nothing. Snores, silence, crickets. Parks and Rec is an accurate example. Not these days, however. Now, Republicans at these town halls are facing what the New York Times describes as, quote, a groundswell of fear and disaffection that's making them rethink even holding town halls to begin with. And while many of the disgruntled voters voicing their anger in these meetings are Democrats, there are Republicans coming forward as well, concerned especially with cuts to veterans benefits, Social Security, and Medicaid, and the security of American data in the hands of a foreign-born tech billionaire. The uproar in town halls, with hundreds and sometimes thousands of people showing up, is happening in Democratic districts as well as districts where Republicans barely hold on to power, and even in some deeply red districts. It's happening in rural Texas, the suburbs of Atlanta, in Wisconsin, in Oklahoma, and in Democrat-led districts in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Oregon. Journalists are likening it to the rabble-rousing done by Tea Partiers at town halls in the wake of Obama's election and subsequent push for healthcare overhaul. The difference now seems to be that the angry voices aren't united behind one far-right or any other type of ideology, and instead come from disparate groups, with even some constituents coming to ask how their elected representatives will do more to tear down the government. And I think this illuminates a truth in this country, and that is that literally no one is happy with how things are going. Well, except for the billionaires. They're happy. But even staunch Republicans are starting to question the fast-moving MAGA chainsaw. According to reporting from Slate, 8 Republicans wrote a letter to House Speaker Mike Johnson last week, warning him that, quote, slashing Medicaid would have serious consequences, particularly in rural and predominantly Hispanic communities where hospitals and nursing homes are already struggling to keep their doors open. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley has warned against cuts to Medicaid, as has Steve Bannon. And recent polling backs up the anecdotal on-the-ground evidence that, statistically speaking, people are pissed. A Washington Ipsos poll found that Trump's approval rating has fallen to 45%, and Elon's is only 34%. And I love that reporters aren't even covering what Vice President J.D. Vance's approval ratings are, because he's the forgotten nerd in the corner who doesn't get invited to the cool kids table. Can you think of another president who routinely made interview appearances with some random aide more than his own VP? I think that bodes well for the fear on the left that J.D. Vance will pick up the torch after Trump inevitably succumbs to his love of McDonald's, an event I'm still shocked hasn't happened yet, but I'm also not convinced they won't try to put his brain in a jar and build a Trump robot out of desperation, because there really isn't a person that can rival the populist appeal of Trump. But putting baby J.D. Vance in a corner certainly doesn't help build him up in Trump's image. In that same poll, 57% said Trump exceeded his authority as president, and 52% disapproved of the Elon Musk power grab. Another poll found that 55% of voters think Musk has too much power, and a Reuters Ipsos poll found that 62% of respondents didn't think presidents should be able to fire federal employees that don't support him. That same poll found that 58% of respondents worried about delays in social programs like student aid and Social Security. According to reporting from Slate, a YouGov poll found people are generally dissatisfied with a whole host of controversial recent moves: renaming the Gulf of Mexico, dropping corruption charges against Eric Adams, tariffs, and more. People are also not loving his deportation efforts against non-criminal immigrants and those here legally under refugee programs. According to Slate, also, quote, CNN found that 62% say he hasn't gone far enough to reduce the price of everyday goods, such as egg. Saying in another article, more and more Americans are asking, did Trump take egg? And while lefties on Blue Sky are trying to make Trump take egg a thing, where you post a picture of empty eggshells and say, Trump take egg, because it's a simpler message that Americans might actually understand, the reality is that Trump didn't necessarily take egg, but it turns out that despite the media frenzy around egg, people are actually pretty pissed about a lot of other things. Though egg remains top of mind, as prices have risen about 80 cents per dozen since Trump took office, which means the cost is on average $4.95 for 12 egg. So polls are showing the same thing that Republican lawmakers are experiencing back home in their town hall meetings. The high-profile moves taken especially by Trump and Elon are generally pretty unpopular, and people want to know what lawmakers plan on doing to take control back in the legislative branch. When Representative Rich McCormick held a town hall in the suburbs of Atlanta, one attendee asked him how he plans to, quote, rein in the megalomaniac in the White House. Others were mad about cuts to the CDC, an Atlanta-based agency. He then claimed that the Centers for Disease Control could do more with less, because a lot of the CDC's work is duplicative of work that AI could be doing, which received a lot of boos from the crowd, because people generally also are not thrilled to hear that lawmakers and billionaires are gunning to replace jobs with AI. The confrontation at last week's town hall has pushed McCormick to change his tune, saying Monday that, quote, I think we're just moving a little too fast, calling for impact studies to make sure we understand the impact of this cutting spree before enacting it. And this is in a firmly held Republican district. McCormick won his seat with 2/3 of the vote last year. And this response and willingness to voice at least some dissent for the fast pace of the MAGA takeover could signal a shift, that the voices of angry constituents showing up at these town hall meetings actually matter. Because unlike Trump and Elon, who get to sit in the White House and ignore the little voices screaming from down below, these Republican lawmakers have to actually answer for the things Republicans are doing. It makes it very real when there are actual humans sitting in the same room as you, telling you they're angry and asking you what you plan to do about it. That sounds like my actual worst nightmare. It's also why Republicans tend to hold fewer town halls than Democrats, and often hold those town halls in controlled settings, like over the phone, so they can continue to pretend that their heinous governing decisions definitely benefit everyone. No one is being personally hurt if I can't see them. The Republican empathy problem, I don't care unless it's directly impacting me, is overcome by the human response to being face to face with another person telling you you hurt them. Usually. There are still Republican lawmakers who hear the pleas from voters and say, bring out the chainsaw. And for those who are human but don't want to face the music, some of them are just deciding not to hold any more town hall meetings at all. According to NBC News, GOP leadership is now advising lawmakers that if they feel the need to hold town halls, they do so in more controlled settings, like phone calls, as I mentioned, or by vetting attendees to avoid scenes that go viral. But mostly, GOP leadership, according to aides, is urging our elected officials to stop engaging in in-person constituent meetings like town hall events altogether. A spokesperson for the RNC told NBC that despite this outpouring of anger, quote, the president's policies are incredibly popular and the American people applaud his success in cutting the waste, fraud, and abuse of their hard-earned tax dollars. Also saying, quote, pathetic AstroTurf campaigns organized by out-of-touch far-left groups are exactly why Democrats will keep losing, end quote. The problem is that that's not what's happening. As I said, reporting on the ground indicates that there are Democrats and Republicans alike lambasting their elected officials, and Lord knows there is no concerted or well-organized effort on the left to AstroTurf Republican town halls. Give me a break. AstroTurfing is a term used to indicate the opposite of grassroots. Get it? AstroTurf. It's like fake grassroots. Grassroots movements indicate that they happen from the ground up locally, whereas AstroTurf movements are where outside people or organizations bring in outsiders to make it seem like there's a grassroots groundswell of support or opposition to something, even though these are people and organizations that don't even live there.
She doesn't even go here.
If you read the book Dark Money, you'll learn that AstroTurfing was actually popularized by right-wing operatives to counter genuine left-wing grassroots work some 50 years ago and was used extensively by the Tea Party movement as well. But that's cute that you think the left has the money, resources, or organizational structure available to execute something like that, though. In reality, that RNC statement is simply attempting to shake off the very real fear of backlash radiating throughout the Republican Party, as viral clips from some town hall meetings, like in Idaho, where a woman was forcibly zip-tied and removed by what appeared to be private security forces after voicing opposition, or former Vikings punter Chris Kluwe calling MAGA a Nazi movement and being arrested and carried out of a city council meeting in California. Those clips will have ripple effects that hurt Republican lawmakers' chances of winning especially more vulnerable districts in 2026, which could hurt the razor-thin Republican majority in Congress. And while I think elected officials' reluctance to hold more town halls because of this angry outpouring is pure cowardice because they literally work for us, and actually now that you mention it, I would like to see 5 bullet points on what they did last week, I will say this is demonstrating a belief long held by political theorists of a certain ilk, and that is that leaders should fear those they govern and not the other way around. That idea is often misattributed to Thomas Jefferson, but was actually first published in a debate on socialism from 1914, and the full quote is, where the people fear the government, you have tyranny. Where the government fears the people, you have liberty. I don't think it's quite so black and white as that, but it certainly feels cathartic to see the leaders in fear of the people for once, after decades of watching them operate above the fray with billionaires lining their wallets in ways that make them feel untouchable. And to see at least one GOP official change his tune a little bit in response to this blowback shows that there is power in what I've been advocating for since Trump took office, and that is to be annoying as fuck to your elected officials. In addition to these town halls, a growing surge of demonstrations have had people taking to the streets to voice their discontent. Democrats are organizing protests outside of the offices of especially vulnerable Republicans, like Representative Mike Lawler of New York, but also at the offices of Democrats, who many, myself included, say are not doing enough to stop the onslaught. After a demonstration at the New York offices of Chuck Schumer, a group of voters got a closed-door meeting with members of Schumer's staff. The grassroots activist group 5051 created an outlet for people wanting to take to the streets in organized protest and spread organically from Reddit onto other social media with the idea of protesting in all 50 states on one day. And they did so on February 5th, and again on President's Day, February 17th. They have another protest day scheduled for March 4th and have put together a website for events, communication, toolkits, and information. They've partnered with a number of orgs, including Political Revolution, a PAC that originally formed to support Bernie Sanders in 2016 and now calls itself the Political Action Committee dedicated to progressive grassroots activism. And I think the unique formation of this organization, truly out of thin air via social media that manifested in actual in-person real-world action, led to a lot of press coverage, which has helped the movement grow. An additional grassroots movement has formed around an economic blackout scheduled for February 28th, that's this Friday, calling for everyone everywhere to not make any purchases or shop anywhere for a full 24 hours, beginning midnight on February 27th until midnight on February 28th. This is also getting a lot of press coverage and was reportedly organized by the People's Union USA, which describes itself as, quote, a grassroots movement dedicated to economic resistance, government accountability, and corporate reform. The organization has also called for week-long blackouts of individual companies like Amazon, Nestle, and Walmart, as well as additional 24-hour total economic blackouts moving forward. And you can learn more about the demands at thepeoplesunionusa.com, although I will say it seems like it's a brand new thing that's right now at least just led by a single guy named John Schwartz. And listen, every movement has to start somewhere. So I'm not interested in being a Debbie Downer naysayer. If this is going to bring power to the people, God bless. I think the demands he lists on his website are interesting. He claims to be nonpartisan and wants economic justice, healthcare for all, calls for an end to the commodification of basic human needs like water and shelter. I think if spun correctly, there's a lot here that could appeal to people across the political spectrum in a way that I think is sorely needed right now, because it is the moneyed interests that control our government and hurt all of us that we're all ultimately pissed off about collectively right now. I don't know, one white guy with a website, I hope he partners with some people that have track records of organizing that can help kind of broaden the coalition, I need a little more to fully trust what's going on. Rumors swirled online that popular historian Heather Cox Richardson was involved in the February 28th boycott, but she quickly made a statement saying she was not involved in any way. And here at Why America with Legia Miller, we're really concerned with sources, biases, motivations. I'm interested in giving the benefit of the doubt here, okay? I'm just flagging this, okay? Just keeping an eye out, Separately, Black church leaders are calling for a 40-day boycott of Target during Lent starting March 5th to protest the corporation's cutting DEI programs, and the Latino Freeze movement is calling for spending freezes to protest a number of companies' removal of DEI programs. According to reporting from Axios, quote, decades of research into boycotts suggest they often end up having a counterintuitively positive effect, as a larger silent majority votes with their dollars by shopping instead of staying home. According to reporting from CBS, however, quote, very often boycotts do not actually lower the sales of the boycotted organization substantially, says distinguished Professor Cohen Powells of Northeastern, an expert on online activism. He says effective boycotts need to be easy for people to participate in, make specific demands, and harness the power of social media. For instance, after the Parkland school massacre in 2018, an anti-gun group got Starbucks to ban guns from its stores after a Saturday-only boycott. Pro-Ukraine activists have persuaded 1,000 corporations to stop doing business in Russia simply by putting the names of those that do online. And one woman's online campaign helped force the end of Ivanka Trump's clothing line in 2018. You can vote with your money, you can vote with your feet, and you can vote in elections, notes Professor Powells, and I think the other ways to vote have been underused. So while I'm skeptical and concerned about organization and sources and who's calling for what, and there is evidence that general boycotts don't do much, the momentum towards boycotting isn't necessarily misplaced. The demands need to be more specific, however. Perhaps there really could be an impact if enough people boycott Target, for example, and call specifically for re-implementation of DEI initiatives. Because ultimately, Target is going to make a business decision based solely on its bottom line. Which will cost more? The threat from Trump for keeping DEI initiatives, or the threat from consumers if they're ended? Right now, the company has determined their bottom line will be better if they fall in line with Trump. There is nothing other than a bottom line that will influence companies to do anything. So voting with dollars is the literal only thing we have to control them, because Lord knows our lawmakers aren't going to be regulating them anytime soon.
Hey, good people, welcome back to the video. So actually this is the MAGA backlash, and when you see your supporters, the people who backed you up before, the people who believed in your dream and supported you, they are trying to go against you. They don't believe in your dream anymore. They're trying to fight back. Then you need to know that something is wrong. And I can say the people who surround President Donald Trump, they don't want to tell him the truth. And when you find yourself in such a situation, that just know that your fall is just near. So in this video, there is the growing bipartisan backlash against MAGA policies, and the grassroots protests at town halls, economic boycotts, and the importance of persistent collective resistance to drive change. So actually, a lot of Republicans and Republicans have ganged up with Democrats right now. They're saying that no, we need to fight this government, and the MAGA movement highlighting public discontent during recent town hall meetings, like for instance in Idaho, where a woman was dragged out by an identified man, and it was a very high profile town hall, because if you see someone being dragged out of a meeting, it means that that person was exactly hitting the nail on the head, right? So Republican officials at town halls where constituents expressed their dissatisfaction with various issues, including the cuts to essential services and government policies. They're facing a growing backlash, and this unrest is notable in both the Democratic and Republican districts, indicating a widespread discontent among voters. So, as I have told you, that it is not only the Republicans but also the Democrats they are not happy with whatever is happening, and the Republicans are facing a significant pushback at town halls, with many constituents expressing fear and discontent regarding current policies. Both these Democrats and Republicans are voicing concerns about the proposed cuts to veterans benefits, Social Security, Medicaid, and are reflecting the bipartisan frustrations. Like we cannot allow our data or our information, our government to be in the hands of a foreign-born billionaire dictator. Of course, they're referring to Elon Musk, and the situation is likened to past political movements, but the current dissent comes from diverse groups rather than a unified ideology. Like these people in the past, when you look at history, you'll find out that of resentment like this, or things like this, people standing up in resentment towards the government, it was pushed by a certain group of people. But right now, people are unified on a common cause. They're saying that we ain't going to allow this. And even the staunch Republicans are beginning to question the rapid changes within their party, particularly regarding the impact of Medicaid cuts on vulnerable communities, right? And the public dissatisfaction with Trump's deportation policy and the impact on illegal migrants is also being talked about in these town hall meetings. So it is something that people need to stand up. People need to understand that whatever is happening in the United States of America, it is something that needs serious address and attention. And for instance, in response to Backlash, Representative Mark Cormack acknowledges the need for more careful consideration of policy changes, suggesting a shift in approach following public outcry. You cannot be oppressing people in the education sectors. You give these tax cuts or tax waivers to the billionaires. You're oppressing farmers. There is a lot of funding freeze. In the other hand, you are deporting immigrants. You want to involve yourself in the Gaza issues and blah blah blah. A lot of things are actually happening. And the backlash against MAGA policies, highlighting the disconnect between RNC's claim of popularity and the actual dissent observed at town hall events, as it emphasizes the concept of astroturfing and how it contrasts with genuine grassroots movement, ultimately showcasing the Republican Party's struggle to maintain support amidst growing opposition. And even in their party itself, there is a lot of division, actually, if you need to know about that. And yesterday I did a video about the secrets that Americans are supposed to know right now. You can go back and watch that video, by the way. And the RNC defends the popularity of the president's policies despite public anger. Astroturfing is explained as a tactic used to create a false impression of grassroots support. Like they want to put an image whereby they think that the Republican Party, right? The Republican Party is being loved at the grassroots level, which is not the case. People don't love the Republican Party anymore. People are dissatisfied with the Republican Party. So I need you people to know, especially you, my brothers and sisters back in the United States, I need you people to know that things are going to be messy in America if you're not going to stand and stay vigilant. I don't know what's your take on this, but I'd like us to have a conversation in the comments, and that is where you commenting, leaving a comment comes in. And don't forget to like this comment so that the YouTube algorithm can be favorable to me and this video is going to be suggested to many people as possible. And then don't forget to share this message to your brothers and sisters. Finally, turn on post notifications that every time I post a new video, you'll be the first person to get notified. Returning subscribers, thank you so much. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribe. Continue supporting me. Take me to 1,000 subscribers. I really appreciate your support. Salute and peace out.